Hey, how you doing? Today I want to talk about the connection between three types of chords: the diminished chord, the minor 7 flat 5, and the diminished major 7. These chords are all related but can help you come up with some pretty cool changes. So let's start by playing a C diminished 7. You can find a diminished chord by simply counting up 3 from any note. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we have a diminished chord. And the cool thing about the diminished 7th chord and its relationship to the minor 7 flat 5 is that you can change any diminished chord to a minor 7 flat 5 chord simply by raising any note up a half step. So let's take this top note, move it up a half step, and you get a B flat. This is a C minor 7 flat 5. Let's do the same here. Here's a G diminished chord. Let's take that top note, move it up a half step, and you get a G minor 7 flat 5. If I have a B diminished chord, I can take this top note up a half step, and it's a minor 7 flat 5. But the cool thing is it's just not restricted to the top note. If I were to take, going back to the original chord, let's take this F sharp, move it up a half step, and you see this better if you take this A and put it at the bottom of the chord, and you see it's also a minor 7 flat 5, because a way that I like to look at minor 7 flat 5 chords is that they are minor chords over the 6. We can discuss that later. So here we have a minor, and since we're in the key of C, it's over the 6. Let's take it again, go back to the original, and if we were to take this E flat, go up a half step, this is an F sharp minor 7 flat 5 because it's a minor chord over the F sharp. And if I go back here to the diminished chord and we take the bottom note, move it up a half step, you may be able to see this one. If you take the E flat, move it down an octave, and you have an F sharp minor over E flat. So the relationship between the diminished chord and the minor 7 flat 5 is one note away. So what's the relationship between the diminished chord and the diminished major 7? Well, instead of going up a half step, we can go up a whole step. So take this A, move it up a whole step, and you get diminished major 7. Go here. Take this E up a whole step, and what do you get? A diminished major 7. Go here, B diminished chord, and what do you get when you take this top note up a whole step? A diminished major 7. And it just so happens that the diminished major 7 is a major chord over a tritone. So that's the way that I describe it in one of my videos. So here we have the diminished chord with a tritone at the bottom, which would be the B and the F. So when I did this chord here and I went up a whole step, it's really a B major chord over an F sharp and a C, and this gives me the sound of a diminished major 7. Now, I don't want you to overthink this. All this is saying is that I can take any note and I can move it up a whole step and it will give me that chord. So let's experiment now with changing each of these notes. So check this out. If I take this up a whole step, do you see the triad within this chord? I do. D, F sharp, and A with the E flat. So the E flat will go on the bottom there, and there's my chord. Do it again. Take this note up a whole step and I have G sharp. Well, do you see what's the triad? Well, the triad would be an A flat chord. The A then would be at the bottom, giving me my diminished major 7. And then here, let's take the E flat up a whole step here. And where is, as you can see, it's already diminished major 7, but in the terms of how I voice this, what would be the triad? The triad would be an F triad inverted, the F sharp, that was in the way, bring it down. So here is my diminished major 7 chord. Now all these chords are related. The diminished chord, the diminished major 7, and the minor 7 flat 5 between one note. So how do we use this? Well, it's largely experimental. I'm really discussing these more experimentally and how we would use this. And I know I keep doing the same song every week, but I'm going to go back to Amazing Grace just to kind of show you guys. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. So that's saved. So on this A chord, I'm going to play a diminished chord starting from the 7th note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to do a diminished chord here. Let's bring the B flat on top. And so I'm going to use this chord to approach the 6. So amazing grace, how sweet the sound. That I can, and since diminished chord is symmetrical, we can kind of see, we can do that. But what's really cool is that in experimenting with this, and if I'm wanting to know how to change this and what to do, I remember that I can change one note and make it a minor 7 flat 5. Let's change this note here. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to go down. This chord is the same as this one because it's the diminished chord. And what I want to do is I'm going to go up a half step with this D flat. I'm going to do it here, same at the same spot. Okay, so this is where we come up with different things. So now that's A. So now this time I didn't do a diminished. I did a half diminished. I took it up a half step. So that I'm talking about the relationship between these two chords. I took it up a half step and I just made it a melodic line. Right? Now, what about the diminished major 7? Same spot. Okay, so on the A again. Here's my diminished 7. Well, Sean, where'd you come up with it? It's experimental. I told you we used a diminished chord, remember, on this A, and I was here. Remember the first time I did this? Well, this time I just took this note up a whole step and it gave me this nice bright sound because it's really a major chord, an F sharp major, right, over a G tritone, which actually is just a function of an A dominant chord. By the way, all of these are just dominant chords. The way I'm using these today, they're all dominant chords. But check this out. What I want to do is I want to show you different examples of where you see just this playing around and this integration between all of these three chords here. So let me see if I can find some videos for you. So in this one, we have Sean playing Give Thanks with a grateful heart, and when he was doing it for all skill levels. Check that video out. But I wanted to find a good example of kind of this idea that I'm talking about, the experimentation. So we're at Jesus Christ, his son, and now we're going to. Did you hear that? Now, so what did Sean do there? It's talking in third person. This kind of feels weird here. But so Jesus Christ, right? His son. And then we normally go, and now let the weak say I am strong. Well, there's two diminished chords we could use to walk up to and now. So I'm going to show you where that chord came from. So Jesus Christ, his son, and now, right? Those are passing chords. And on passing chords, diminished chords usually work. So it would be like this. Jesus Christ, his son, and now diminished chord, diminished chord, diminished chord here. Now what happened is, and instead of using the diminished chord here, the F was changed to a G. That's what gave you that bright sound because that note was pulled up a half step. So check it out. See, there it is right there. So right there, he's implying the G major chord over the tritone. So the sound he was going for would be Jesus Christ, his son, and now, and this is where people ask, well, Sean, where do you come up with that chord? But I already explained, it's a diminished chord. It's a diminished chord where the note was pulled up a whole step, and because this B is part of the melody, it's just moving on, right? Let's look at another example. I'm gonna stop playing and come out with a singing number. Hey, check this out. So where did that chord come from? So when he goes, and then he goes something like that. So where did that come from? Well, the top note's in F sharp, right? Da, 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 da. That's the melody, right? So he goes da, 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 da. So he's harmonizing the C as a inverted dominant. When he goes to the B, he's playing an inverted dominant. But then when he gets to this F sharp, he could have played a diminished chord. So he could have went. You see, he could have played a diminished chord, but what he did is he took the C, he went up a whole step, and he gave this bright sound, because now you've got essentially a D major chord over the tritone of an E flat and the A embedded within the chord. That's why you have that neat thing. See, but my point is, you could take any of your diminished chords and play around with them by moving them up, right? When I did the Amazing Grace, when I went here, with one note movement, I cover all three chords. I have this diminished major 7, go down to the F, cover the minor 7 flat 5, go down to the E, I'm on the diminished. And in that one thing, that little small lick, I did 3 chord qualities. Really cool. But they're all acting as a dominant, right? Because they're all functions of this A dominant chord. You guys need to come to my my office hours class. I'm gonna talk to you guys about that a little later, but I wanna keep going real quick. There it is again. So there's my diminished major chord there, where you have B major chord over the tritone, giving me the diminished major 7 chord. Let me see if there's one more. So let me keep on going. Because today, remember, this is an experimental video today. For all those of you who love music, man, and love learning. I got something to tell you later on. Y'all remember to like the video. That move right there, and by the way, there are a couple videos you need to watch. If you're watching me on YouTube, we got so much goodies, man. It's a gold mine. I discussed the diminished major 7 in a separate video right here, whichever way this is. So check that out. I broke down this song from Corey Henry. Check that out. I broke down the half diminished chord, the diminished chord, all these things I've broken down. Right now, we're just kind of looking at the connection between some of these. So let me talk about those chords. So something like that. We did that part already. And then da 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 da. Da 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 da. Where did he do it again? And then da 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 da. And then, so when he did like this, that part there. So check this out. I believe in the video I discussed those being rootless minor 7, no, rootless 13, no 5 chords. So rootless 13, no 5s. He could have played these as diminished chords, and if he wanted to do that, he would be like killing me softly as diminished chords. And then those would be diminished chords. But remember, because I'm talking about the relationship between diminished major 7s and half diminished, we know that we could actually change one of these notes. I like personally changing the second from the bottom. So this would change this A to a B flat half step. So how would that movement sound, changing all of these diminished to minor 7 flat 5s instead? Well, I think it would sound just as good. So killing me softly. Here we go. Sounds just as good. We could also take the half diminished chords and let's end on the major 7 by taking the last note up another half step. Okay, so. And then. I'm getting to my half diminished, man. There's a diminished. See, so in this one, I went half diminished, half diminished, half diminished, half diminished, and to change it up in this other half diminished, I went up a half step from the D, and then brought that D down 3, changed the chord to half diminished, changed it to diminished. All these little moves you can do, man. I love this stuff. I love learning. You just gotta love learning, and you gotta love experimenting, right? Don't take yourself too seriously when it comes to chords and things like this. Just throw stuff out and just try moving notes around. One note up, you could take it to one kind of chord, 2 half steps up, another kind of chord. Just kind of experiment with it. I have a thing called office hours. I was, and every Monday I just kind of meet and they throw me questions, my members. And this past week, man, it was, this guy came to office hours and he was like, man, he was on vacation. This dude was like, man, I couldn't miss this. And that kind of stuff, man, some of y'all who were here, y'all let me know in the comments if you were there. That was crazy. That was crazy because there are people here who are just soaking up this thing and wanting to learn. And I love it, man. So all those who love learning, like the video, subscribe, and we'll be back with you some other time, and I'll probably discuss this concept in depth in a future office hours for those of you who are on the site. We'll go into some examples and stuff like that. So everybody else, thanks again. We'll see you guys later.